The Grow My Cleaning Company podcast helps owners of cleaning companies just like you to grow your company and yourself so you can make more money and finally get the time and money freedom that probably got you into this business. Discover how to automate and create systems that allow you to grow like crazy without losing control. If you dig the show and want to show some love, subscribe, rate, and review on iTunes. It really helps. Enjoy the show. All right. Question. Planning to run background checks on those I hire. Should I start with a check on myself? I don't know. Have you done something that you feel bad about? So I wouldn't. I mean, you can.
No. I was just wondering if the reason I'm doing checks is, well, I guess, so that I know who I'm hiring, but it's also for the benefit of my clients. So I don't know if that's something like and it's a silly question, but it was something I was just like, so do I run a check on myself for the sake of my potential clients?
I wouldn't. I haven't run a background check on me, and I don't think any of you guys have run a background check on me. Yeah, here we are. So, and you're welcome to. If you find anything good, let me know. That said, I do want to give you guys some feedback on both background and drug tests. So, and again, can't say this enough. I am not a lawyer. I cannot give you legal advice. This is business advice of how I'd run my business, not legal advice. If I inadvertently tell you to do something illegal, please don't do that. So this is just what I've experienced in business. I don't know anything about the law, certainly not in your state or province. That said, I get a little nervous about those things personally, because I don't want to, like when we talk about people not showing up, I tend to give excused and unexcused absences, and that's it. And they're defined. Unexcused for me would be within 48 hours of your shift, you call out, or you say, can I have this day off? And I'm like, no, 3 other people have already got it off. We need you to work, and you don't show up. So that would be unexcused. Excused would be, I called more than 48 hours before my shift and said, hey, can I get time off? And the scheduler said, yeah, that's fine. What I don't get into is the reasons, right? Because say Charlene is like, well, I was in the hospital and I almost died. I'm like, okay, that's fair. You can do that. And Heather's like, well, I was in the hospital because my mom almost died. I'm like, well, gosh, it's your mom. Okay. And then Daniel's like, well, my third cousin, and it wasn't the hospital, it was the veterinarian, but I really care about this. And now I'm getting into a whole situation of like, I'm this judge and also maybe Heather was lying. Maybe she wasn't in the hospital. Maybe she's out drinking. Do I need video? I just don't want to get into any of that nonsense. Right. So it's just like, I don't care what your excuse is. It's either excused or unexcused. Here's how many you get a quarter. God bless you. Use them however Heather could just call and be like, hey, I have no unexcused absences. This is going to be my one. I just don't feel like coming in. Okie dokie. Daniel could be like, I'm on the side of the road bleeding out. I'm in the ambulance right now. It's unexcused. Okie dokie. I just don't want to get into it. So same thing goes with when I get drug or background check. Now it's like, well, Heather's like, well, I've got, marijuana, and in this state it's legal, but I've got a prescription, and am I going to check on it? And can I do it when I'm high? Is it okay if I do it when I'm driving? And then Daniel's like, well, I'm really into cocaine, but I've got a different, this all is not an area. You know what I'm saying? Like once I know it, I'm like, okay, I better have a policy I'm going to follow, and it better be, I can't get, because it's, again, legally, when it comes to not letting people off, I think there's less of a legal liability, but Heather could go, well, I was pregnant and he didn't like that, and I'm discriminating. I don't want any part of that. But when it comes to drugs, it could really get into Heather's like, I have a doctor's note and this is it. And then I was discriminating. Like, I don't want to get into any of that crap. So I'm not saying I wouldn't run them. I'm saying if I was going to run them, I would have a very clear policy that I was confident was legal, and I would not have I just like policy, like I'm legal and it's only this. I did policy. Like, I don't want any details. Just like if Heather's like, I'm drunk and don't want to come into work. Well, it's an unexcused absence. And Daniel's like, I really had a bad thing. And Heather, I'm like, policy. So if we're going to do drug tests of any sort or background checks, same thing. Well, I had a felony, but it was, some sort of sexual thing, but it was when I was in high school, I mooned somebody and the parent got offended, and I'm like, oh, okay, that's okay. But then another person comes in and like, well, that was only a misdemeanor, but I don't want to get in, you know what I'm saying? We start getting these stories and details. The legal part is super muddy, and just where I want to be in my headspace, super muddy. So I would either not run it, and I always go core values, right? And if I was going to run it, by golly, have a policy, and I don't want any details. Policy. Like I don't want to know any information. I'm going to implement the policy, make sure it's a legal policy. So just know once you have that information, it does not come risk-free, right? Now you can be perhaps legitimately accused of some sort of discriminatory action because well, I'm against pot, but Annie does pot, but it's completely legal and she's got a thing, but Brandon does this other drug. And I'm like, well, but now you're driving and is that okay? Like it just gets into all this stuff I don't want to get any part of. So all I want to say on all of that stuff is just make sure you've got a policy in place that you're confident is legal and you follow that policy every time, all the time, period, no matter what. Does that make sense?
Yeah. So would you say then that so I'm kind of where you are. There's some information that I'd really rather, not be responsible for, kind of like what you're saying. So is it acceptable if I'm just hiring with core values match in mind? Is that an acceptable thing to do, to not run a background check?
So when you say acceptable, depends on who you ask. So first I would ask the government, is it legal? So obviously I want to make sure I'm doing everything legally. That's a pretty easy standard.
Yeah.
Second, I would check with my own moral standard. Like, is this okay? Can I sleep at night doing this? And then third, I would check with my clients. So if it's legal to not have any of that information and I'm okay with it morally, and my clients are okay. And by the way, I'm not going to go to them and go, hey, Brandon, I'm not going to do any drug tests or anything at all. Are you okay with that? That's a weird framing. And he might go, no, I don't know if I like that at all. I'm probably just going to put good people in. Like none of you guys, we've been doing this 8 years. And I understand you guys our clients are not physically in your house, or my team is not physically in your house. So there's a little bit of it, but you trust us with your business. And like we have I think as intimate or more intimate of a relationship than you might have with your clients. Not one person has ever asked me if I have not drug tested any of our people, and I would be shocked, like just shocked out of my gourd. Haven't done a criminal thing, but again, I'm also not putting them into buildings. So if I had a residential cleaning company, probably wouldn't unless and until there's a problem. If I had a commercial cleaning company, I'd probably be a little more likely to have some sort of background check, but by golly, there would be a system and it would be followed, and it would be followed blindly. There would be no, well, I like Heather, but I don't really like Michael, and Charlene's okay. It would just be, sorry, man. Like Daniel's like, I do gummies just to go to sleep and I've got a doctor's note. If my policy says no drugs of any sort, including pot, sorry, man, love you, just can't do it. So those are the 3 standards I put when you're like, is it acceptable? I'm like, well, make sure it's legal, non-negotiable. You're going to have to decide your own moral, what I think is appropriate. And if I've decided it's moral, I'm not going to physically go to like this, my first call and I'm a crackhead and a pothead. Well, Daniel, I call him like I see him. I'm sorry. You look very fancy. Yeah. He's like, forget it. I'm going to lean into it. If you're going to judge me, I'm just going to go there. Good man. This is the first time I think I've ever talked about the standard of my employees with drug testing or whatever. Happy to share. Like if you guys ask, I'm not hiding anything. I'll just tell you. But before you came in, I'm like, just so you know, some of the employees haven't been drug tested and I don't have a background check. That would be a weird conversation. But if you'd ask, like, oh my gosh, no, I'd be shocked if anything, we've never had a problem, but no, we don't do that. And if 1 in 100 was like, and we've never had that in hundreds and hundreds of clients, but if 1 in 100 was like, I don't want it, probably not going to pay much attention. If 7% of my people are uncomfortable, I'm going to pay attention to that. So when it comes to, is that acceptable? Like you're the owner, you get to decide, but that's the prism through which I would look at it, if that makes sense. Real quick, Cleaning Nation, if you can think about how you found out about this podcast, maybe a tweet, a Facebook message, iTunes search, some sort of Instagram post, the only way we grow is word of mouth. We don't do paid ads. We don't run ads. You are it. The only ask I have is if you're getting value, share the love. However you found out about this, if it's a review or post, whatever it is, do that. Pay it forward so the next cleaning company owner can change their life as well. Back to the show. Okay, question. We got a couple. 1, commercial versus residential pros and cons. Commercial is, you can get big accounts. That's really about the only pro. That's a big pro, right? With the residential, big account might be $500. Commercial, you can literally get a $20,000 a month account. So if you want to grow in big chunks, residential is tough. So the pros with commercial are you can build $1 million company with just 20, 30, 40 clients. With residential, if you're going to build $1 million company, you need hundreds, period. And I had a commercial, so please don't hear me knocking on commercial just because there's only one, it's a huge thing. Please do not overestimate the ability to pick up a $5,000 contract and be able to do a couple million with just 30, 40 clients. That's a big deal. So just because there's only one pro doesn't mean it's not a good pro, right? Right. So residential, the pros, and the pros of commercial is nights and weekends. And I don't want you guys working, but even when you have people out, stuff happens on a midnight on Tuesday. You don't want that call. It's just a little bit, not a big deal. You can, but it's a reality to get that you will deal with at some point. Residential pros there are 8 to 5 Monday through Friday. Super nice. Super easy to get a client. You get one tomorrow. You're not going to pick up a commercial client tomorrow. It might, even if their buy cycle is months, commercial buy cycles, hours, days. Like, so you can pick one up tomorrow and the next day or 3 today. It's just easy peasy. But because they're only $300, $400, $500, you have to have hundreds of them. So it's more of a systematized, like the leads, bids, sales that we teach in the marketing plan. Also, marketing is, I don't want to say easier for residential. It's more instant gratification. You can put up a local service ad, a Facebook ad, and you get leads tomorrow. Commercial, we kind of are moving more towards like a Dream 100 thing where you're building relationships, and that'll make you rich in a year and won't make you nothing today or tomorrow, probably even a month or two. So that's really it. And also residential, obviously 8 to 5 Monday through Friday. And last is do what you like, right? If you're just like, I hate residential, I hate commercial, I would weigh that in. Like, you guys want to be, and the good news is, I'll tell you, if one was the right one, like commercial is bad and residential is good or vice versa, I wouldn't coach both. I would just be like we don't coach. If you're like, I want to build my company with move in, move outs or construction cleanup, or one-time cleans, I wouldn't take you as a client. Like they're bad. Like they can't scale. So does that make sense before I hit your second question?
It does. Can I say something? It appears to just from my perspective, it's just mine, obviously, but that there's a lot more steep competition on the commercial side, at least in Corpus, and not on the as much on the residential. Or there is plenty of residential cleaning companies, but we haven't had really any issue, even just in the basics that we've done to pick up. I know you can easily pick up the residential clients too, but it seems like once you get into commercial, it's a whole nother animal. I don't know that
it is a whole nother animal. That's why. And again, for Daniel, this is exactly why when I'm talking about these differences, it's just a complete different animal. You said it perfectly, William. So I wouldn't say it's more competitive. It's just different competitive. So because at any given time, 100 people in your area, because I think you guys are in a decent sized city. Corpus Christi's got a lot. Say there's 100 people at any given time and there's 37 that want cleaners and there's 37 clean. You know what I'm saying? It's just like, there's plenty for everybody to go around. With commercial on the big ones, it's a little more like, I'm going to take it out to bid. It can feel more competitive, but it's not, I wouldn't say it. And the good thing is, if you do the sales process that we teach you in module 6, all of your competitors, because I talk to them, are going to be like, how many square feet? How often do you want to clean? We're the best, they're not, they're not going to compete with you. If you will be the only one, unless you got another person following what we teach, that has paying conversations, understand what it costs them and how it's affecting them. So honestly, I'm not afraid of if you do the sales process that we teach you, I wouldn't worry about the competition. So the competition is different, but I wouldn't say it's more or less competitive. It's just different.
On the residential side, we haven't got to this yet, but vacation rentals, we talked about letting that one go. Are you going to help us have us focus just on like recurring work, or like no move in, move out?
Definitely.
What are your thoughts on all that?
So move in, move outs will be red. You have to do all the work of a client and you get paid once. Same with post-construction cleanup, or just come to my house and clean up after a party. I'm not into any of that stuff.
Gotcha.
The bread and butter, $400 a month. We come every other week, same time, same thing. That's an ATM, man. You get that lady and she stays for 5 years. It's like a $20,000, $30,000 relationship. The Airbnb, for me, I wouldn't take them because I'm lazy and I know what I want and I'm in a big city. That said, they're not red for me. Like I'm very definitive on, you don't want the, I promise you don't want the move in, move outs or any of that crap. The vacation rental is a little bit more of a pain in the ass. They're a little harder you can get big chunks. They're kind of like, I don't want them because I'm lazy and I'm good at marketing and I want who I want. Lifestyle is more important. But if you're like, I just want to grow and make money, I'm like, I won't fight you on the vacation rentals. The one thing I really don't like about vacation rentals, and the rest I'll tolerate, because you know what it is. It's last minute and there's an emergency and somebody threw up and it's a mess, and I'll tolerate all that stuff. Amanda's, if honestly your gut feeling is I don't want to do them, then don't do them. They're not. It's not like you should really do them. It's the opposite. If like I really want to do them, like I'd be like, yeah, it's fine. But on top of the regular pain in the ass array I don't love, The part I really don't like is the seasonality. So if that's not how it is in your area, I'll be much more tolerant if it's like year round. But like here in Phoenix, I'm guessing in Florida, the summers aren't as busy. I hate the seasonality because it comes with cash flow, it comes with hiring. It's really hard to scale. So that for me is what would put it into the red. I personally wouldn't take them. And if I did take them in a seasonal area, I would limit them to like 25% of my sales. Because if they're 25% of my sales, they do this. But if they're 90% of my sales, do this. So if I'm in a non-seasonal area for VRBOs, even then I'm scared, because if I'm getting the right houses, the $1 million houses, when the economy goes weird, the $1 million people still keep their cleaning services. Vacation rentals can be if they're not seasonal, they're definitely cyclical. Like in COVID, God forbid that was all you're doing, right? With vacation rentals, it's tough. So I don't love them. And especially if either of you, like, even if you're like, I like them, but Annie's doesn't, or vice versa. If either of you hate them, there's plenty of fish in that sea, man. Like if you're in a small town, you're like, we want to do $1 million and our town is 20,000. I'm like, well, you're going to have to do a lot of everything. But in Corpus Christi, just get the good ones. Why make your life hard?
Yeah. And logistically, a majority of them are a distance away. And the labor pool in Port Aransas, which is where a lot of these are, it's so expensive that everybody has to come from all around to work. You're going to be a minimum of a 25 to 30 minute commute. Yeah.
Let me answer that and move on. So I'm not worried about when everyone has the same thing. So that's fine, because we're on an even playing field. So either I got to pay expensive labor there because they're all living in $1 million houses and I have to pay $30 an hour, or I have to pay $20 an hour and they drive it. Fine. But all my competition has the same problem. So that doesn't bother me at all. Don't worry about that. It's just, and then because then again, you're gonna be like, it's $200 for a move, for a turn. They're not going to fight you because everyone's $200, right? Now, if you're trying to do that in Boise, Idaho, it's going to be different, but yeah, don't worry about that. Okay. Yeah. Do you recommend before and after picks? I guess I don't care. I sell based on the results that I'm getting for them. So all of our stories aren't like, let me share with this guy and I'm a great coach. It's just to encourage you and make you feel good. But again, you guys would have fear, like, can this guy really help me? I don't know that you're going to be bidding a lot of people like, I think you're full of crap. Can you really clean my house? Like, you know what I'm saying? So the before and after would be, I think we do that, but it's kind of masturbatory. It's for us to make us feel better. It's not. Our clients don't go, wow, look at the lines in that carpet. I thought they're like, yeah, I've seen it clean. That's what I like. So you can, I'm not saying it's going to hurt you, but I wouldn't make a marketing plan on before and after picks. I would make it on being better at understanding their pain and articulating it to them. Like we talked about in step 6. And then car insurance requirements for W-2 employees. Beautiful thing is, talk to your insurer. Almost every insurer I know for liability has any auto. It's beautiful. It's usually wildly cheap. And it's just any auto. Doesn't matter if you drive my car, your car. If I ask you to go somewhere and you're an employee, you're doing on company business, and you drive a hobo's car, it's covered. If I had a car dealership with hundreds of cars, tons of employees going everywhere, it was like $2,000 a year. I was shocked how cheap any auto was. So yeah, just get any auto. It's part of your liability. Just talk to your insurance guy. All right, you guys get what you need?
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Well, here we are, the end of the podcast, and you made it. Great job. I've got a little bonus for you for sticking through with me. But like I mentioned before, if you got value out of this podcast and you want to show a little love, subscribe, rate, and review on iTunes, Spotify, wherever the heck you're listening to this thing. Share it with a friend. Share the love. And as a special thank you for those of you that stuck with me to the end, how about I give you my personal phone number so we can text? It's a great way for me to get to know you, your business, your goals personally. So shoot me a text now, 602-932-6431. 602-932-6431. I am the only one who responds to these texts, and I will personally respond to everyone I possibly can, as long as this number is manned. Don't know how long we're going to keep this at the end of the podcast, so grab it now, 602-932-6431. Give me a text, say hey, can't wait to meet you.